Okay. Hi,
Hi,
everybody.
everyone.
Welcome back to Casual Conversation with GNA. And today we have a special guest. And Sean, is it Kana or Kana?
Kana, and it's Sean.
Kana.
Kana means Sean in Hawaiian, so
Oh,
Oh,
it's
I
like
didn't know
Sean
that.
Sean. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
cool. So I've been following you actually for a while, ever since I found out about the Kenny case, which
mhm.
was when it came out on Coast to Coast, that Dave Paulides was talking about it. So
Oh,
it's
was he?
been, yeah, it's been years. um, yeah,
I never knew he covered Kenny's case or ever talked about it. That's cool. I gotta check
that's
that out.
yeah, that's how I found out.
Mhm.
Because Dave Paulides, I think he would come on Coast to Coast every month, if I'm not mistaken. He would come on pretty often, and he talked about Kenny and like a few cases that I got into, but the Kenny one kind of like hit home for me a little bit because I'm there all the time, and it's kind I have family there, so it's kind of crazy. And then not just only that, but the cave, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, hey, Chad Smith. um, so I just want can you tell us a little bit for people who don't know who Kenny is? Can you tell us a little bit about that situation?
Yeah. So I came onto the case in 2015, kind of early, and I never knew Kenny, but he was just, I guess, a hiker a solo hiker. That's like, a special type of person. Usually people do a lot of group hike type stuff, but he was pretty comfortable doing the solo thing. So apparently, too, he was finding these caves specifically in the shape of an M, kind of around the Vegas Valley. He says he found the first one over by Nellis Air Force Base. A lot of people,
Wow.
did you guys know that?
No.
No.
Yeah, so there's potentially two of them. And he was saying that in the comments and stuff. And I think before he ever posted videos, he was generally in the forum comments of YouTube. And then one day goes out on a hike, obviously, and finds that cave, has that experience, and then says, I'm going back out. And so that's the video that we see where he has his camera and he's like, I'm coming back. And, I've talked about it and, on YouTube, people said I was lying or whatever. And, so he goes back, he can't find it. And the rest is kind of history. But I guess backstory of what I know on Kenny is longtime resident of Las Vegas. He was like what, late 40s.
Hmm.
I know, well, his ex sister-in-law Susan Veach, who you've kind of seen in the mix of the comments probably, and she comes on my live streams sometimes and chimes in. I've been talking with her for probably last 3 years, and she's been giving me just whatever information she could give me. She's the one that told me a lot of his backstory and how like this doesn't really make sense. She feels that he could have faked his death because he just wanted to get off the grid or something. He was having some money troubles. He was probably upside down on his house because he bought his house the same time I bought mine. And the market here in Vegas crashed around 2009 ish. And who knows? And she was really generally reaching out to me to be like, hey, careful on this whole thing because I don't want to see you get hurt out there because he might not be out there. He might have just faked this whole thing
Wow.
type stuff. She also warned me about like the family and how it's a family with some issues for sure. Like we could maybe get into that later, but yeah, there's definitely some skeletons in the closet, and also kind of indicating maybe like the family kind of being a bit of frauds in a way. I don't
Mm,
know, type stuff.
yeah.
So immediately you think of like the life insurance thing, but no one's ever cashed a check on Kenny. But like his mom is kind of sketchy in that way, and whatever. Anyways, kind of getting off on tangents, but long and short, I don't really know too much about Kenny. I just know, he's a solo hiker and went out
Yeah.
and, did that, did what he did, and now he's gone. I
And
don't know.
that was it was in the videos we saw, he
Mhm.
definitely would push his limits. Um, as far as with his hikes, he would not drink enough water, right? And
Mhm.
or eat enough food. And so that kind of, and I feel like he kind of just wanted to push his body to see how far it could go.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. That's kind of crazy to me because I don't see a lot of people doing things like that. You would think like, oh, I need to be prepared. I need to take everything. And so I don't know. I just that struck me a little bit.
Yeah, there's some
He
people like
liked
that.
danger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my dad was actually is like that, I should say. And so I related with Kenny when I started like watching his videos and stuff and saw what he was doing. He'd like be like, "Oh yeah, I just kind of take a candy bar and a bottle of water out here and maybe some other stuff in my pocket, but I just pretend like I don't have it to see how far I can go," type stuff. But there's people like that. They're just like my dad
Yeah.
walked from Vegas to St. George. He walked there, back, I don't know, years ago, but
How
just to
far
see
is
if he
that?
could do it. It's like, oh, I guess of a drive. I don't know, but it took him 3 days to do it.
Oh my God.
And
That's
he ran out of
crazy.
water on the way and almost died doing it. But he was also a survival expert and he worked for Dixie College, or they were trying to get him to be like their head survival wilderness dude. And then he ended up taking a different job or whatever. But he was into that. And there's just some people that are, they
Yeah.
want to push the limits out there and they do it solo, which is just trippy.
Yeah.
And that's how Kenny was. He was just kind of, one of
I
them.
know. And then another thing that also is kind of trippy is with me hearing this story, Missing 411, Dave Paulides, always talks about taking like a locator beacon, right?
Mhm.
In
Hmm.
case something ever happens, people they can find you. But Kenny, I mean, being an avid hiker, you would think he would have something like that, but he didn't, right? I mean, he
Correct.
took his cell phone. When he stumbled upon this cave, he was scared and he said, "Okay, I'm coming back with a gun." That to me didn't seem like somebody that wanted maybe to like commit suicide in a way because
Right.
if you have a gun, you're obviously taking that for protection. Um, I don't know, that kind of to me, that's not like somebody that wouldn't strike me as somebody that wants to commit suicide, especially like in his videos. He seemed like he didn't seem like that type of person, but you can never tell. So I don't know.
I agree. Well, recently I've put the suicide factor at like 20% and other stuff at 40 and 40 because, yeah, I agree. He didn't strike me as the suicide guy who's getting online, who's active. And then the backstory that I know from Susan Beach, who was married to Kenny's oldest brother, Teddy, she tells me too, he wasn't like that. And Susan lived with Kenny for a couple of years, like in the same house as him, type stuff, like his roommate situations. And yeah, he just like you said, he's not the guy who commits suicide, or the person is like, you don't hear it until it's over, and then you're like, whoa, that came out
Yeah,
of
I would have
nowhere.
never thought, right? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, some
Um,
people, oh, go ahead.
oh, no, you go ahead.
Some people are like, well, maybe he was like getting bullied online and because they were beating him
Yeah.
up, like, yeah, right, you just lied about the whole thing,
Yeah.
because then he couldn't find the cave, and he was like, oh crap, and maybe he was feeling sad, and then the girlfriend comes out, says all that stuff, which is just, I don't put too much weight with that, with her statement. Girlfriends come out on a lot of cases, like that TikTok one with Andrew Dawson, the one that was filming those giants. Did you guys see that story?
Yes, I saw that story. I actually saw it after you posted about or when you were talking about it, and then I went to go look, and I didn't even know, but that was a trip.
And his girlfriend as well said, oh no, it had nothing to do with what he was filming, he was suicidal in the past or whatever. It's like, oh, this sounds familiar. It's like, are
That's
these
crazy.
girlfriends potentially getting coerced to make those statements? You don't know. And you wouldn't be able to know. They wouldn't be able to tell you, or because in that situation, say like he stumbled upon something he shouldn't have seen,
Yeah.
like some kind of military, whatever. They're going to go, they're going to take him out and then contact everyone that he knows and be like, this is a story you're going to tell, especially the girlfriend, people that are closest to him, so that everyone believes, yeah, it's a suicide and he's just out there somewhere and no one's ever going to find him. So that people aren't going out there looking for a cave, that he was saying is out here. It's,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
And that's the thing too, with the cave, right? Because this was the reason why there's so much like, I guess, conspiracies, right? Or the reason why his this disappearance has captured a lot of people is because of the cave. Because he didn't know what it was. He didn't find it when he went back. But what do you think it was? Like, what do you think was there? Why was it vibrating? Why did he feel scared? Like, what are your thoughts?
There's a lot of different theories and stuff. I feel it could be, I mean, he could have come up on, like, there's probably 5 options. Let's go through them. Potentially, like a dumping site for toxic radiation,
Hmm.
whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a thing. They build tunnels and they go dump it off the books because they're doing off the book type of experiments all the time. It's like, how do you get rid of nuclear waste when you shouldn't have been creating it in the first place?
Oh yeah.
I'm saying, like, so they got to do secret little dumps because, like, you can't just show up with a bunch of barrels of nuclear waste at a site at a military. Like, what are you going to do with it? You got to do something with
Right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if there's no budget, to have it and dispose of it wherever they do that, Yucca Mountain or wherever it's going, that happens, then they got to put it somewhere. So that could be one thing. If you had a site like that, it could potentially have some like aerial denial type technology on the mouth of the cave, which could literally, as soon as it detects anyone who's not wearing like a sensor or something, it just hits them with a frequency or something. Because, like you said, it just vibrated my body. As the closer I got to it, the more it
A
vibrated.
stronger, right?
Yeah. So it was denying him access, is what just assuming his story's real, too.
Hmm.
That's what I take it as. That same technology could have just been on a typical entrance to an underground facility or DUMS, deep underground military base or whatever, or lab that they're doing some kind of experimenting with on, at whatever you want to say, you know. So, and if you look into my 2019 MK Found video, the pinned comment I put there is a guy who has a similar story with some friends that he knew who found a cave out in the middle of the desert, and it was a lab, but it was completely abandoned. Did you guys have you seen that comment?
Oh, that's creepy. Was it
Yeah.
there in the same area?
No, it was in like California somewhere, I think it
Mm,
was. But he said that his friends, it was a whole lab. It was like so big. It's like everyone just got up and left. It was just like all types of stuff in there. And then they came back like a week or two later to with cameras and stuff, and the whole thing was covered up. Like they couldn't even find the entrance anymore. Someone had gone and
what?
covered it up. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Crazy, right? So
Yeah,
that's
familiar.
yeah. And this was in the 80s, is his story. So that's another theory. And then the other one is there are some freaking creatures out there that obviously I have a little footage of, that we can talk about in a little from the site. I mean, 10 yards to the right of this covered up spot, that I'm thinking
Mhm.
was a covered up where I think he witnessed the cave. And if it's some kind of secret little creature entrance, yeah, it's going to have that same type of aerial denial type technology on it. You would just imagine. I would feel if you're not at that right frequency or have sensors on you that allow you to access the cave. So I don't know. Those are a couple options that
That's crazy.
I think if he did witness it, could be possible for sure.
Yeah, and that's, like, the thing that I think about, I'm like, "What could it be? Why was it giving him" I don't know, they've made movies, right? Similar to his case. I
Mhm.
remember one do you remember that movie that where they would walk into the cave and it was, like, some time of
Oh
like, the
yeah,
portal
where the
like, a
time there's like a
time
time
would
lapse.
change, right? Um,
Oh yeah,
some sort of portal or I don't know. And then, there was another movie that I watched recently that kinda reminded me of the Kenny case. It was something about I don't know if it was Horror in the High Desert, I think it was called,
I
and
saw a title for that. I don't know if I've
and
watched.
it kinda resonated with Kenny's story, right? And, but it was more about, like, people they look like people and mixed with creatures, like, I don't know, that were living out there, and,
Skinwalkers and stuff
it
type
looked
stuff.
like have you seen The Hills Have Eyes?
Yeah, yeah.
That's what they look like that, and so
And they're
that's
all mutated
supposedly right, yeah, and that's what lived out there,
from
and
the
so, like
radiation and stuff.
right, and so all these movies, it's like, "Oh, snap," like,
Hmm.
what if it was an entrance to something, you know? But,
Totally. Or a
um
portal, like you're saying.
yeah, yeah, like, no, that's creepy, that's
I just
creepy.
saw a comment like that before, or yeah, before the show that I was going through. It was an older one. I'm just trying to get through all of it, and someone was like, "It's a portal," and I've heard that so many times, and very
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, and that's one of, Dave Paulides like, he talks about that being one of the reasons why people disappear also, and, the forests, the national
Hmm.
forests, and so that in and of itself is scary as well,
Yeah,
his what he talks about,
totally.
um, but I kinda wanted to get into your hikes because you went out there, you were boots on the ground,
Yeah.
trying to find out what's going the cave, right? Trying to find out if there's anything of Kenny out there.
Yeah,
Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
yeah. So I was kind of surprised that no one had gone out before I went out there, and so I went out a year after he'd been missing for a year, and just did a quick little day hike in through Picture Canyon. I took a shortcut. I didn't. Kenny parks at Joe May Road and walks in and kind of does a big loop and then comes back. The first hike, I parked kind of towards the north. Then we just went in through Picture Canyon and then went back out. So a much shorter hike. But the reason I did that was because I could tell where he was after comparing like bird's eye view, Google Map type stuff in his video. You could kind of see where, if you just compare it from where that mine shaft is, you can just see where he walks in. And in his video, he walks past those two little openings where it's in the shape of an M, where I film the little keyhole thing. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying?
mhm.
And in a lot of people probably do this, but it's like, dude, you walked right past it. That was the M cave, right? It was in the shape of an M, and then he kept walking, and he's like, oh, it's low to the ground. He's like, yeah, you got a bunch of these little caves here, but it's in a spot like this, and he just keeps walking, he doesn't find it, whatever. So I was like, no, we got to go check out those two M spots right there before that he passes and see what that is. And then I got there, and it's not a cave at all. It's like very shallow. You can't even on camera. It looks like it might go in, but it doesn't. Anyway, so when I saw that, I was like, okay, well, we've hit this part, because he's making this loop through. We went this way, and I got to that part and found those little M deals, and then knew that okay, well, then it has to be further down this way, the way we came in, and so it's like we don't really want to go that way anymore. So we didn't. We just kind of looked around the area and then got out of there. And so that was pretty puzzling. It was like, okay, that don't make any sense. Because me
Mhm.
and another guy both went, and he was working in law enforcement with me at the time, just real sharp dude, and we didn't find it. So that's when, and I filmed this hike, the first one in late 2015, like November, but I didn't post it until like March 2016. It's like I wasn't, I wasn't like in a hurry to try to make content. I just was like, no, I should finally upload this video, and it was like it was the first video I had ever uploaded. Anyways, it got a lot of positive feedback, and so I was like, okay. And I was confused of the whole situation, so I was like, we got to do a bigger hike. So then I set up that 3-day, 2-night hike with Chris,
Wow.
2016, and felt like that was enough time for us to be out there and have, because that you really do need to spend a couple days out there to really search around. It's too much and too big of an area to do it in one day. That's
Yeah.
because you saw my last hike where I got a late start. I don't think I started hiking until like 3:30 p.m. And it's like it was dark. I went in there, and then coming
Mhm.
out, it's dark already. And that's the summertime where the days are super long. So, anyways, yeah, we do that hike, 2016, and that's probably why I just didn't do a hike for a while, because like we searched the whole area, up and down that whole canyon, up the mountains on both sides, and really left no stone unturned as far as like where a cave could be, especially like an open one, the way he was
Mhm.
describing it. And that's
Yeah,
when, yeah,
and I'm sorry, I was just
no,
gonna
go ahead.
mention because he said it was about his height, right?
Yeah,
So that would be hard to miss.
totally.
It's not like we're talking about something that's hiding or,
Yeah,
small. And so I all that time that you were out there, you would have seen
Yeah.
something.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not an
Sorry.
idiot, like I'm not an idiot. I'm gonna find it, and that's why I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, we're gonna find this cave, and that's halfway through the hike. Me and Chris are there on camera talking, and it's like he says, "This Kenny thing, his body, yeah, we could find it, but let's try to find the cave. Like that's gonna be easier to find than his body. He could have just hiked up into the mountains another 30 miles and you know offed himself or died or who knows." So
Mhm.
we kept looking for that cave. We basically looked for the cave the entire time and never could find it. But something interesting about that hike, on night 2, we both of us slept in the tent night 1, and I was a little cold. So I was like, I'm gonna sleep on the outside of the tent and just start a fire for night 2. And it was great. I was warm because it was like in, I don't know, the 40s. And I just didn't have,
Mhm.
I needed one more layer. And I was just kind of waking, how you're waking up because you're cold. You ever,
Yeah.
and so I was like, no, it's not happening. I'm just going to start a fire, and I'm just going to have a little campfire, and, and that'll be great.
Mhm.
And so in the night, maybe around the 3 o'clock hour, kind of sleeping there, just feeding the fire. So just off and on sleep. I hear behind me like some breaking of sticks and like a stomp kind of. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I was like, oh, grab the camera, like something's over here. And I was like, no, no, no. And I kind of like had a, whoa, dude, no, get your gun, and like there's something right here behind us. And we were kind of in some trees, and you can see that on the video when I'm filming our tent. You can see like these kind of maybe 12, 14-foot trees that we're kind of in. There's a few of them. So it was on the other side of those trees, whatever it was.
Mhm.
And so I'm like looking over there with the gun and my light, and the fire's making a bunch of light too. And I'm just kind of like looking around, like, well, that was weird, And it's always weird when you wake up to something like that, because you're like, did I hear that?
Right. Yeah.
Type, and you just woke up, and Chris is still asleep. So, anyways, kind of looking around, and then about 10 seconds later, after I was really zeroing in over it, like knew I was looking at it or something, over on the opposite side, it was a bigger like snap, snap, and then stomp on the ground. It was big. It was like definitely got my attention to where I was like, that's not a normal
An
animal.
animal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not normal. Like usually something walking is just making little crunches, in the ground.
Mhm.
And this thing was like, it
Like a
almost,
stump.
yeah, it was like, and it was trippy just hearing it. There was a bunch of like dead trees and like broken branches and stuff kind of around. So it sounded like crack, crack, and then boom, like, and it was
So,
louder than the first time.
was it almost like something was falling from the sky, like coming down from the sky?
Okay, so just in the past few days, when we've been talking about all these like winged creature type things, I've been thinking like maybe that's what it was. It was something like landing.
Mm.
It's like it grabbed onto. There's a bunch of stumps like laying sideways with big branches, hanging off of them, and I'm thinking like that could have been it. And the reason I've been moving more towards that is I never heard anything walk away, which just tripped me out because I'm like, there is something right there and right there. So I'm just like, watching everything. And eventually, you don't hear anything else. So you just kind of, you're like, okay, whatever. It was just something in the bushes. Like, but I didn't go back to sleep until the sun was literally coming up and I could see over there and, all these
Mhm.
places. But maybe it just, just flew off. you know,
That's
and
crazy.
yeah, we can talk about an experience last year. I saw one of these flying creatures in the sky over my house when I was living up in the mountains at about 6,000 feet, about 30 minutes away from where I'm at right now. And so I know, and that guy, really Robin, his channel, we kind of, people
Mhm.
that follow the story kind of know him. He
Mhm.
interviewed a guy that told a story about a winged creature thing. And I actually used to work with that guy in law enforcement, and I know that he's telling the truth. He wouldn't just be making up a story. And he's explaining a big winged creature thing that was like stalking him in the road, which is right by where the sheep range is and where Kenny went missing. That it passes it actually,
Scary.
it passes that mountain. So he had that experience right there by the mountain. And then the place where I'm at is just, if you kept going north up over the mountains, maybe another few hundred miles, that's where I saw the creature flying over my house. Anyways,
That's creepy.
yeah, these things are out
So,
there. Yeah.
how big did this man say it was? Did he give an estimation on it?
There was a sketch, and if I remember right, I did watch the interview. It was
Yeah.
it was I think like maybe the size of two men, and I'm just going from memory and the
That's
sketch.
crazy.
Maybe like two men standing up and then just very wide. And because he said it stopped in front of him when he was driving and then just went like this, like tucked its head like it was gonna, he's driving his car like it was just gonna
Hit him?
let him hit him. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it would have, it like very confident and like, okay, yeah, let me just bump you off the road. So the thing could have been 1,000-pound creature. You don't know, like but it was probably like 9-10 feet tall or something, and just a big like humanoid looking dragon thing is what I remember from the sketch.
You know what that kinda, like, I think about? The Mothman.
Yeah, I know, that's what I was thinking too.
Are you familiar with the
I've
Mothman?
seen some
Dude, like,
pictures and I've read the stories on that. Yeah.
yeah, and so because in a car, it
Mhm.
like, people have seen him while they're driving. Yeah, that's creepy. That's really creepy.
Yeah.
Somebody
Somebody.
asked, "Was
Oh,
the
go ahead.
creature like Jeepers Creepers
Or
or like
like
a
a
gargoyle?"
gargoyle.
The one that I saw was more like a humanoid gargoyle, and the one that was in the sketch had kind of like the wings went up and then went down and kind of like rounded out and then
Oh, that's weird.
back up and then maybe and then the body. So I guess that's kind of like a gargoyle-y type.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing when it was flying over me, I could see like the lines going down into the wings, maybe only just like 2 or 3, but coming kind of to a point, but still the wings were sort of rounded. You know, it wasn't super pointy on the bottom of the wings, if that makes sense.
That's so scary. Oh,
Yeah, it was true. It was wild to see, because at first you're looking up and you're like, oh, a bird's coasting,
that's a big old bird.
and then you're like, nope, that's not a bird, and you're trying to just take it in and just keep eye contact with it so you can remember what the heck it was. But it was just, and it was completely silent. So that was creepy too, because like I would not have, if I just hadn't looked up, you know, whatever made me look up at that moment. But it's like I could probably sense it, you know, something's above me.
When you saw it, I'm sorry. When you saw it, was it during the day or was it, you said nighttime?
It was like 2 a.m.
Oh, yeah. So it's really late. So then
Yeah,
you think maybe, and this guy with Willie Robin, do you think that he saw it at night as well, or was it during the day?
I'm pretty sure it was at night, and he was
So it,
driving. Yeah, it was at
so
night.
it might be a nocturnal creature then, right?
I think so.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't
That's
think this
scary.
thing's coming out in the daytime because it's flying. You know,
Right.
you're gonna
And
see it.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're gonna see it, especially
Yeah.
that big. Oh, that's so creepy. Ugh.
yeah, but at night it's basically invisible, really.
Yeah. And if you can't hear it,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It was It was gliding into the wind because like the clouds, and the only way I was able to see it is because there was a moon out, and so it was beautiful. Like I go out in the middle of the night all the time, and I meditate and do all types of stuff. And I had a nice balcony at this place, upstairs balcony, and would go out there all the time just to kind of, when you're in the mountains and it's a small town, you know, it's real quiet. It's just peaceful to go out there and kind of listen to nature and just whatever's there's a lot of deer walking through the neighborhood and all types of stuff. So it was just cool. And then the wind was kind of blowing a little bit. It was very like creepy horror movie type Jeepers Creepers you know, like
Mm,
because
mm,
it's very humanoid. You could see like its legs sort of, and then its body and its arms, and the wings were pretty full all the way up until it got to the body, and then or the head, and very trippy, just and completely silent, and then just slowly got into darker sky because the moon was over here, so it flew over, and then as it just kind of disappeared, just kind of faded perfectly out of my vision. I
that's
was
so
like,
creepy.
whoa, that was trippy. It was probably like 40 feet above my head, if I had to gauge. Yeah. I'm like, that thing's watching me for
Mm,
sure.
mm. Would you have tried to bring it down? Have you had your gear? Have
No,
you had your
not unless it did some kind of threatening little swoop by. You know, like I'm not going to mess with it
That's
because
crazy.
it's,
Oh,
I'm okay. You know, I understand that we're not the only creatures walking around
yeah.
here, and
Yeah.
things have probably been here, you know, millions of years longer than us. But if you get into my space and you're making a move inward, you know, like
Yeah.
kind of like walking out. Okay, so to go to the next hike, the Jenkins one, where we did stay overnight, we stayed one night and slept really like 50 yards or less away from that M cave site that I think
Mhm.
is the cover up. But I didn't know, and that's the site. That's the time I filmed that little eyeball looking at me, but I don't see it on film. You know, I didn't know until much later when Warlike Wrath emailed me, and then I saw other people commenting about it on the video in the
Yeah.
comments. Anyway, so that it's trippy to think like, oh dang, we spent the night there that night too, and there's like these lizard beings looking at us through the wall, and yeah, trippy. And I remember at night I was hearing like little crunches and stuff around the tent, but it was never consistent. It was like there'd be something over there, something over there, and something over there. Like, and it was never like anything walking, but I was hearing just odd noises that weren't just, you know, the wind blowing bushes around and stuff. So it was a little windy.
So
And then,
like
yeah,
little whispers or like little hissing or
just like little noises of
oh, okay.
like something contacting the ground a little bit.
Oh,
But
okay, okay.
it was so quiet though. And it just sounded different than the normal, wind blowing through the bushes, and even like a rabbit or like a lizard or something. You can kind of hear that, it has a little trail
Yeah.
to it, but it was just, and sometimes it'd be like really close to the tent, like a foot away from the tent. There's kind of like a, just like a little, but you always listen for the next step, and then you don't hear anything. So it's like, oh, that's different. Like there's just nothing there. I need to go to sleep. And that's what I did eventually. I just went to sleep and woke up the next day and everything was fine. So, and then the last hike, when I'm getting followed out, that's what I was kind of the point I was getting to. I could hear two things walking for sure, crunching steps behind me after it got dark, only after it got dark. And I was walking down the last, that big wash.
Mm-hmm.
So you pass the mine shaft and you just keep going. It's like, I don't know, maybe 2-3 miles, 2 miles as the crow flies. But when you're zigzagging through all of it, you're probably walking like 4 or something. Who knows how many miles? Because you can't just, there's no straight line to walk out of there. There's literally a cactus like every couple feet, every like 5 or 6 feet. There's something you got to like walk around. It's a pretty hard hike. Anyway, I got past the mine shaft, and then you see me do that last bit where I put the camera on myself. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine out here. A few things walking around. Like I was starting to hear stuff walking, and that was like right after I passed the mine shaft. And then I was like, yeah, it's peaceful, but it's dark. Like can't see anything for sure. And there wasn't really a moon out that night. And so, but once I got further down, because I was taking this high road on the way down, which is up like by the mine shaft. And then there's a low road, which is the wash part of it, where all the water just drains through that whole thing. And so I liked being up high, but eventually you got to drop down, or you're just doing this over a bunch of like really hard terrain. And then I was walking in that wash. And when I got kind of down there and I had maybe, I don't know, 2 miles left, zigzagging 2 miles, that's when I started hearing crunching, like closing in. And it was coming from, 2 sides.
Both
like
sides, yeah.
Yeah. Which is trippy because it's like, I know what you're doing. I know you're in attack mode. Like you're in attack position, basically, if you're a team, what, and I could hear it. And a lot of people are like, oh, it was your echo. It's like, no, because I stopped a bunch of times and then could still hear them kind of stopping, crunching their steps and stopping. And then also got it off guard and would stop right after I just stopped. I'm like, stopped, put the light over there. And be like, and then just stop again. And I could hear me like catching it off guard.
Yeah.
Which led me to believe, I mean, in the moment, I'm just like, no, it's probably just some animals out here. You're just trying to be positive, even after I got back in my car. But, thinking back on all of it, it's like, no, it was a human. I kind of take away the creature aspect, because especially if it's a winged creature, it's not walking out there, and get more into like the Sasquatch, desert Sasquatch theory. A lot of people are like, hey, they were actually walking you out to make sure you got to your car safe. And it's like, that kind of makes a little bit of sense. Somebody commented that. And there could be like multiple creatures living out here, and they're just like, let's make sure this guy makes it type stuff, because they did bank off once I got down to the road. Like within,
like they kind of know, right? Like so they were intelligent, whatever it was. So that's crazy.
It was me, but at the same time, it got within like 30-40 feet, and it was identically close on both sides. Like it knew, I felt like it both knew where each other was, and they were both evenly following me. You know, no one of them didn't like fall back at any point. It was like they were just together coming in. So that's when I pulled my gun, when they got to be around like 30, 40 feet. It's like, that's close. You know, when you're hearing it, you can hear someone maybe walking like 50, 60 feet away from you when you're out there. If you're just listening, you can hear them crunching steps. And so it was pretty close. And I kept putting the light over there, and I just was weirded out
You
that I
wouldn't
couldn't
catch
see
anything.
Yeah, there's just nothing over there. And granted, I didn't have a good light, but you should still be able to see something standing over in the desert, even if it's dark, because you can still see like the gray ground and bushes and stuff. Anyway, so definitely
That
weird.
kind of, that, I mean, and they say if it could be Sasquatch, right? That they might have cloaking abilities. So you never know. I mean, you might be looking at it, but you can't really see it. You know, that's scary. That's so scary. Crazy.
Yeah, that's the law of one. This information I get into talks about the Sasquatch, and other sources do, and they really talk about how they're these basically like a fourth density type being, kind of like what Jesus ended up doing, where he could walk through walls, he could walk on water, you get access to like these other abilities. And some of these like reptilians and things that are out there also have the ability to shapeshift and make themselves invisible and stuff. And that's because they're at this fourth density level. Humans are apparently at like third and trying to get into fourth. It's all frequency. I mean, a lot of science proves that we are just straight up frequency. But my point is, when you're at fourth density, you choose to be visible in a third density form when you want to. And really, they don't do it very often, because it takes too much energy and effort to be visible in third density, because they're not normally in it, if that makes any sense. Like, that's not their natural state. They have to try to be visible. And it's like, why? I don't need to be. I can just be invisible, which is probably the safest way to be if I'm around a human that might just try to kill me or do whatever. Who knows? But there's a lot of positive beings out there too. You know, we're all talking about creatures and negative, crazy dragons and whatever and reptilians, but there's a lot of, like, I believe, positive beings, just as many as there are negative beings out there that are looking out for us.
I mean, who knows? Maybe the winged creature was a good guy. I mean, did it even notice you? Were you able to tell?
It did not look like it was looking at me, but it was also flying over me and could have easily just been staring at me.
Oh man, that's crazy.
You know, like, because I'm just looking at its belly.
Yeah.
And it almost seemed intentional with how direct it flew over me. It's like it's flying almost like directly over me.
That's
like
crazy.
like I'm the only one standing out here on my street. There was only a few, maybe like 5 other families that lived up this street of maybe my street of, I don't know, 15 houses. A lot of people have homes there. They're just like summer homes type stuff, or they're abandoned or whatever. Yeah, it just seems very intentional. And then in the mountains behind me, I found this cave that's kind of up higher. It's just like this hole in the freaking mountain. And there's a lot of mining and stuff that went on in this town I was in. But I've really hiked through all those mountains, and it's just trippy when you see stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, it could just be living over here, these beings.
Yeah.
And it was like a cave. You had to rappel down from the top. You would have had to get into it. It's not just one you can walk up to. So I'm like, that's weird.
Oh, okay.
That's what direction it was flying. It was flying straight to that mountaintop behind me. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So going back to the M cave, because so in one of your videos, it looks like there's a cover up, which you talked a little bit about it. But can you talk a little bit more about the keyhole and that, like, what you think about that and how it went
Yeah.
down?
Yeah. So the cover up spot, I guess we'll start with the keyhole since I filmed that first, like a month before. There's a freaking eyeball looking at me through that, and it's like, what is this? You know, are they going out covering up these caves because the government or someone knows that these creatures are living out in these areas and they're like burrowing holes everywhere, and sometimes they're maybe busting out the mountain and like snatching up people, and then they're like, oh snap, you know, we got to go. They took a person. All right, go cover up the hole, seal it off, whatever. You don't know.
Mhm.
And because there's like two holes right next to the one that I think is the cover up. Like I said, those two M-shaped like indentions where I filmed the eyeball. So just to the side of that, you have potentially what was the cave that Kenny witnessed. That on the last hike, I go and I'm like, this is for sure 1000% a cover up, because to the left you have this spot where all the mountain just looks like it was chipped off, literally with like a jackhammer. Someone just, you know, and these pieces, these giant pieces would have fell off. And you can tell because it's not, that part isn't weathered like the whole rest of it. And you can just clearly tell it's fresh rock because you can just touch it and it just like falls. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it just starts like avalanching off as soon as you just brush your hands on it. And that's not how the rest of that little piece of the mountain is. It's just hard like rock type stuff.
Mhm.
And then just to the right, you have pieces that literally look like they puzzled on right to the side over there.
Yeah.
And on the ground, there's no pieces, giant pieces of rock that would have fell down off
From
of
that.
this place. Yeah,
Right.
there's like, could the water have taken it? I don't think the water could have moved that big of pieces. Anyways, and then you got this like weird little manufactured spot, I think, where all these pieces are definitely different, and there's a gap in between them. There's just too many gaps, and then it looks like it was literally melted to just all kind of glue together. It's trippy to see it in person. You know, like everyone sees the video, but if you went out there in person and looked at it, you'd be like, this is a silly ass cover up right here. Like this,
Yeah.
it's
Somebody did
clever.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very clever because you walk past it. You know, I walked past it 3 times before I finally was analyzing all the video and figuring it out. Like, no, okay, it's not an open cave anymore. That's why we can't find it. It's a sealed off cave, and that looks like where it is. And then in Kenny's last video, he even looks. He's like, "Yeah, I was in a place just like this," and he's like kind
Right.
of confused too. And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, I gotta really keep my eyes peeled because I don't want to pass it." You know, and
So it obviously was there. If
it
he,
was there. It was
yeah, that's crazy.
he witnessed a cave. And like I said,
That's so scary.
you got those two other spots that are clearly sealed off. You can see the seal mark, and it's just all very unnatural. And it was, you could tell it was a cave that went in. Who's to say these creatures that maybe the military knows about, who are out here on these parks, maybe they're taking people and they don't know about it, or maybe they're taking people, the military kind of knows about it and they're kind of trying to stop it, but they're not telling the public about it because they don't want everyone to be freaked out and never go back to a
Mhm.
park, because national parks make $30 billion in revenue from visitors paying money to go visit them, you know, type stuff. Who's to say that these lizard reptilian eye, whatever has that slit eye that was looking at me through it, who's to say they didn't just burrow out a new hole, literally, right, like right next to it? Think about a freaking mole or a gopher. You know, it's always burrowing holes. You could like
Yeah.
plug a couple holes. It's just gonna make a new hole right next to it and come out and do, you know, or whatever, any kind of creature that's burrowing. It's gonna just make, you can't stop it from making a new hole. So that's
Yeah.
what could have happened. And then they're like, oh shoot, it made a new hole over here, and now this guy's missing. Or they're watching him and seeing on YouTube and stuff that he's finding these caves. I'm sure they watch people that go out and do hikes, and there's a whole crew that's out there just watching everybody on YouTube to see what everyone's discovering. You have to assume that,
yeah, I was going to say, especially in that area, right?
totally.
Because it's Nevada, close to the famous Area 51.
Mhm.
I mean, Nellis Air Force. So I would
Yeah.
think that they would keep a close watch.
And didn't you have an experience where you started to not feel well?
Oh yeah, yeah. In the middle of the yeah,
Yeah.
after so even at the site when I'm filming it, I stayed there too long, but I had to over document it. I started coughing when I was up close and
Yeah.
personal with it. And I spoke to a couple people that had worked in labs before for the military and whatnot. Literally, I spoke to someone who had handled like anthrax at one time. Like he was working with all this stuff in labs and whatnot. And I was kind of getting his advice on a few things. And he's like, someone could have easily put like a vomiting agent, sprinkled it just all around it to just keep people and things off of it. So it's just like a dust type of stuff. And when you start inhaling it, you get sick, like I did. That's what happens to you. And you can hear me start coughing when I'm there, which is interesting. And when I
Yeah.
watch when I rewatch it, I see the life coming out of me. I can just see my color changing, and you can kind of start to see dark circles forming under my eyes and whatnot. And there was like flies all around me and just moths and all types of shit all over me the entire time I was out hiking. Mostly it picked up the closer I got to the cave. Anyway, so yeah, I'm leaving, and like 100 yards away from that site, I just start throwing up and feeling really terrible too, like mentally. It was something was having a mental effect where I didn't even want to start filming, because that's a lot of work to do the film as well. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to just be on the hike, but then to be documenting that way. And so, but I forced myself to do it. I was like, I have to document this crap. And I ended up throwing up maybe, I don't know, 15 times or something. And
That's crazy.
it was like exorcist throw.
Projectile, like
Yeah, it was like, bah.
pressure. That's crazy.
Yeah. I was throwing up like, whoa.
So it
I didn't
made
even
you,
know.
something made you
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know how you can feel yourself getting sick.
Yeah.
And
And
I was
it's
like,
not like, were you like drinking water? Were you hydrating enough?
oh yeah. And I grew up in the desert. You know, I lived my
Yeah.
whole life in Vegas. And like, yeah, it's 100 degrees. I get it. It's July or whatever. But I'm also higher up in elevation. It gets a little cooler as you get up there. And I'm used to it. I've done all types of hikes, and I can do the hot weather. It's the cold I have an issue with. And I know what my body's capable of doing as well. And so I knew I was getting attacked at whether it was through something I ingested, or it was something attacking me energetically, like some kind of technology or another being that's just standing, 10 feet, 15 feet away from me, that's freaking cloaked or something.
That's crazy.
That's yeah, because you got a lot of those stories that are coming out with like hunters. And what happened to me is I've listened to some of David Politis' stuff, where the last hiker, or the guy in the group, there was maybe 5 of them or something. One guy's like,
They
oh, I'm
start
not
to,
feeling well. Yeah, like
yeah,
I'm gonna sit down. I'll be fine, and then they just never
they're
hear from
gone.
him. Yeah. And
That's
that's what they
crazy.
do. And so in one of my videos, I talk about this martial art. It's more of a meditation art, but it's called Mo Pai. And it's all about learning how to control your personal chi. And there's people that practice that specific martial art that can do that with people. They can take your energy. Well, and I've said it before, like energy vampires.
Energy
You know,
vampires, that's what I was going to say.
some people just do it naturally and they don't realize they're taking it from you, but it's just how their frequency interacts with yours, and they just drain you, and that's in a controlled situation with someone who actually knows what they're doing. Child's play. They're going to drain you right to nothing.
Yeah, because you seemed fine
Yeah.
all the way up until that
Yeah.
moment where you started coughing. right? And you can, I mean, people can go on your channel and see the
Yeah.
videos.
That's
And
why I
then,
thought it was strange.
yeah,
with
and
that.
even the keyhole, you can clearly see something.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
played it recently. You played it recently, and I saw it, and I was like, dude, there's no denying that there's something there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to know what's in there. It's
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah. And
But
I
go
got
ahead.
another video coming out related to it that shows even more. There's some of the closer up shots where I get up and there's not really a visible eyeball in there. There
Mhm.
is, it's still, you can still see it. It just backed up and it's very faint. And then there's also some other things going on in the footage that I haven't talked about yet, but I'm going to release all at once, that you
Mhm.
can see like other anomalies with it that are kind of like translucent in a way. It's
That's
very
crazy.
trippy. So like the eyeball thing, this thing that I'll release next is similar, is equal in weight to that eyeball when it's going to,
That's
when I
so
talk about it
scary.
and do the video. Yeah, like there's another piece there that you can see that I've just slowed down and frame by framed it with, the original video, not the YouTube video that got posted that people are downloading or viewing, because that's just slightly pixelated a little worse than my original video. And it's trippy. So there's definitely something there. And I feel like it has the ability to possibly walk through that wall if it wants to and come out. But it's like, why is it looking through the hole if it can walk? I don't know. Maybe it takes effort to walk through a wall. I don't know, but it's almost like it's in the wall a little bit with how close it is to. I don't know. It's trippy. I don't even know what to
So
think about it.
like, and that kind of trips me out because with all this, right? All your experience and everything, you want to go back. I know that you're right now trying to raise the funds to go back out there. I mean, if that was me, I would be like, never am I getting close to that. Heck no. So, what makes you want to go back?
Well, like I said, I got kind of like an extreme dad. You know what I'm saying? So it's like not that far out. I grew up
Yeah.
and had a great. I like doing. I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. Like I rode motorcycles for 15 years, street
Mhm.
bikes, in Vegas, and like that's crazy in itself.
Yeah. Yes.
And you see the Vegas traffic
Cars
if
is
you're there.
crazy and it's
Yeah, I've been almost hit like so many times, and it's just kind of
crazy.
like fun to go through traffic in my mind.
Like
And
swerving in and out.
yeah, it's
It's
kind of like a
crazy.
game. But I
Mm,
don't ride anymore. I gave it up because I had never crashed in 15 years, and I was like, I think I'm gonna quit while I'm ahead, because there's just so many
yes.
stories. Everyone that I
Yeah,
know that
there
rides.
is.
So I'm
I
like, I'm
know.
just gonna stop. I got lucky enough. Anyways, my point is, my dad kind of made me a adrenaline junkie. I mean, he was a hang glider. Like who does that?
What?
Yeah, he was doing it
Have
in the
you tried it?
70s. No,
Oh,
no,
heck
and
no.
I
That
don't
would
know
be
if I
scary.
will. It's just like you hang.
That's
I would
crazy.
rather.
So it's in your blood.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
and
the
like I said,
adrenaline.
he's a survival expert. Whatever. He did a lot of crazy stuff, and I've done a good handful of stuff. Just people that know me, that grew up around me. We were always doing stupid stuff, and that was back before cameras were really a thing.
Mhm.
In the late '90s and early 2000s. But the people that grew up with me have seen some fun times, and so this is just, it is what it is. And the reason I would go back is not to tear the cave down, because a lot of people say that. They're like, oh, tear the rocks down. At one point I think I was like, yeah, maybe I will do it, but I'm not going to tear the rocks down and try to open that cave up. One,
Mhm.
because I don't know what's in there and what's going to come out, or whose door I'm knocking on. I could
Right.
just have an army of freaking lizard people come out and just eat us all. Like that's
That's
not.
crazy.
Two, it's a federal crime. You can't dig into the mountain and whatever. And
Yeah.
but really, I don't see, like, at the same time, it's a state park or a national park, federal, whatever word you want to use, and I'm very sovereign in my space. It's like I have the right to be standing here right now, even if you're some creature that's lived here for however many years. I don't care. I'm not completely infringing on your space. Like, I'm
Mhm.
allowed to walk right here, and I've spent the night out there before, and it's kind of like poked around me, and just kind of like checked me out, but I've never been like attacked. Yeah, there's a guy missing, so I never forget that.
Mhm.
But what did he do? We don't know how he went missing. And then there's all this other stuff about how he could have just faked it. Obviously,
Yeah.
maybe we can talk about that here next, with like this certain evidence that has come out that he is actually potentially alive, especially according to like Las Vegas Metro detectives. They think he's alive because of the loan that was taken out in 2017. Excuse me. So
Oh,
it's
that's
not a big deal to
crazy.
go back. Like
Yeah.
but I just want the proper equipment, and unfortunately, I just don't have a huge budget to go get all that stuff, like a personal beacon locator, maybe
Mhm.
some type of GPS, a Geiger counter or EMF detector to see if I'm actually
Mhm.
walking into radiation. Because I was sick for like 2-3 weeks after the hike. I wasn't right, and I don't think I talked about it,
Oh,
but yeah,
really?
I was very
So
sick.
for a while, you were still sick?
Yeah, it jacked me up, and I
Mm,
just didn't say anything about it because I don't know, just didn't. But
that's
I
so
ne-
crazy.
and I'm doing all this with my iPhone. It's like I don't even have a real video camera to do it
Yeah.
with, or anything that can film night vision or thermal. Because if I had thermal and I was walking out and the stuff was following me, I could have looked over there with it and potentially caught a figure on
Mhm.
tape. So it's like
Yeah.
I'm willing to go back out there, but I'm coming back with some footage, and I'm going to be properly equipped, because it makes it more worth it to put that type of disclosure and evidence on the internet, or where after you're done. If you're just going out there risking your life and walking through there and getting no type of evidence, it's all kind of for nothing, just for the thrills, I guess. That's great, but
Yeah.
it's like you could come back and tell the story like Kenny did, but look what happened to him. Just imagine if he would have had the camera on him that first time and been able to
Yeah.
film that cave and like,
It's
whoa,
crazy.
oh dang, I'm gonna come back with a gun or something, and
You guys
try.
feel that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like,
you
that would have
see
been
it,
crazy.
and
Yeah.
you would have been able to be like, oh yeah, I know right where that's at. It's at that spot where the two little caves. Like, a bunch of people would have been able to go back there and find that cave and be like, oh yeah, they sealed it off. That's what we would be seeing. They probably have a sign there and be like, oh yeah, sealed off mine, do not enter. But now they just tried to cover it up quick because he didn't have the
Mhm.
camera, and they were like watching him potentially because he found that other cave by Nellis. Like I said, like they could have already been watching him, and because how many hikes did he go on that we don't know about before this, when
Mhm.
never had a camera? They could have been like, oh, there's that guy again. He's always out
Yeah.
here. Like, he's got to watch him because he's going through like all these spots.
Yeah, and you know that those areas are definitely monitored. I mean,
Yeah, totally,
they have to be.
totally.
Um, and that's the other thing that he since you went, I mean, there's been other a few other people that have gone out there and searched and walked through it, but nobody has been able to still find it, right? Um,
Right.
and so I know that they have found the covered up cave that you were talking about, and they film it and they show other things. I know there was one where I saw somebody find like an Area 51 plaque somewhere that was weathered, and I was like, um,
Yeah, I
I
know
don't know,
exactly.
like,
And
yeah.
I could tell
And
you, I could talk a little bit on that real quick if you want me to, and give you my
oh, go ahead. Yeah.
opinion. I'll give you my 60-second elevator speech on how freaking fake that whole. Okay, so this guy, he's got like 400 something thousand subs, but it's called like Exploring Mines and Abandoned Whatever or something like that. That's the
Mhm.
channel. And first of all, he's at the highway, interstate whatever 6, where it meets the 375 or something, which is kind of close where I'm at, but it's way north. It's like 30 miles north of the sheep range as the crow flies. So he's on the
Okay.
complete opposite side,
Different.
way out of there. He's like, oh yeah, I'm turning on the extraterrestrial highway, and then from the 6, so he's on that highway, but that leads into Alamo. He's not anywhere close to like walking distance from the sheep range.
Oh,
Like
okay.
he's nowhere near it.
Yeah.
Anyways, so he's just somewhere out there, and he doesn't have any video of him walking up to the cave. He's like, just starts filming something. He's like, okay, my military friend said this is the cave. Maybe. And he goes up there, and then there just so happens to be this sign that someone said you could buy it freaking Kmart or on eBay or something. Like the same exact sign you can find online, and it's like beat up and kind of dusty. And it's like anyone could. Oh, he just happened to find that. So if it's some restricted area, then why are you still alive? How are you even alive to talk about? They wouldn't put a stupid little sign like that there. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to
And
walk up to something like that.
right, and that's I've seen a few videos of, I think it was 2 guys that were on motorcycles, and they were trying to go to like the Area 51, and they got stopped, right? And so if they are watching you that far out, like you would think there's people, if you find a sign like that, then you would be like, okay, maybe I crossed somewhere, but I don't think you would ever get that chance to actually go cross the line, right?
Wow.
Because yeah, like that's crazy.
Guys
I don't know.
cracked out, man.
But I mean, it could have been somebody that kind of like just went up there for fun and just, I don't know, I don't know. It was just
Yeah.
crazy.
When you don't show how you got to where you're at, that's extremely suspect. That's why I film the hikes like I do, where I take the same path as him, and you can see from the landscape that I'm taking his path. That guy, you have no idea. He could be anywhere in Nevada or the country. Like you literally
Yeah.
have no idea. He just shows up to a spot. He's like, "Oh, my friend said this is a cave," and it's like and he's like bragging about how his video is at almost 1 million views, and it's like that's complete clickbait, dude. He's like bragging about it on the channel and saying, "Oh, the other hike videos where people said they found the cave they aren't doing as well. Why does my video have more views?" It's like because you have a bigger following, and people just assume that you're right, but you have no evidence of where you're at. Like you don't. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
And
These
yeah,
clowns, man.
because and that's crazy because there's a few people that have gone out there, and they try to be, show everything, show side by side, right? The camera, Kenny's video, and then their video, and where they're at. And so that's kind of more informative for people because they're seeing the exact same spot where Kenny was and things like that. So, it's cool in a way that a lot of people are interested and they want to go out there. But knowing what you went through, how difficult that, the terrain is and everything, it's like, I don't know. I mean, you'd have to be really, really
like an avid hiker,
right? Because that's crazy. Like for us, I was out there for a few minutes and I was like, dude, I can't do this. Let's go.
Yeah.
It's too crazy. Yeah. And that's like, it was, what is it? Like there was no hills. It was just flat.
Yeah.
And it was crazy to walk on. I was like, how do people go out here? Like, this is crazy. But
yeah, definitely got to be in good physical shape for sure.
For sure.
And I've always just kind of kept myself in that shape, as well as been able to do the heat. That's the other aspect.
Yeah.
You it was 103 degrees on my car when I showed up at the 2009, my last hike. It's like, but I can do that. I've done that many times in other situations. And yeah, definitely a factor, endurance, all that stuff. But like I finished a police academy when I was in late 2014 and have done a bunch of other stuff and was like the top student in it. And like, so my point is I've always kind of just stayed in good shape because of my profession and survival, like when you're working in that type of stuff, you have to be in better shape than the people you're kind of like you're working with and could potentially get in a fight any day. Anyways, that's always helped me kind of stay in shape. one thing I wanted to mention though about the other people hiking, like, yeah, these guys, some of them they seem like they're pretty cool hikers and all that, and some of them are in good shape. But there's also aspect of, okay, let's say this cave existed and there's like a cover up. There's obviously someone covered that cave up in my mind. Well, you would also have people out there hiking and deflecting people from the actual cave site, which is what I see a lot of, like the Area 51 sign guy that just shows up at some place and he's like, yeah, this is probably it. And it looks nothing like where I'm at. So people are like, oh, okay, you're up on the extraterrestrial highway 375. Oh, maybe the M cave was way over there. It's like he's drawing people away from the site. And then you got a couple other people that did that same thing, and they either walk right past my location where I think the cave is, literally right past it. They walk, or they go to a complete other area on the other side of the mountain. They're like, yeah, I think it's right here. And like these guys, yeah, there's some good hikers on there. You can tell they've been doing it, and probably better hikers than I am. I'm not really a hiker. I'm just in decent shape to be able to do it. Some of these guys, because there's like the guy Jenkins I went with and hiked with in 2019 before I did that. He's a little more out of shape than me, but his hike IQ was higher than mine, if that makes sense. Like there's certain ways you got to walk through stuff. Like at the end of that, my toes were all like bruised up and stuff, and things were sore, and he was doing fine, but he was like visibly, out of shape, more out of shape than I was, if that makes sense. Anyways, back to these guys. My point is, you would have some people deflecting the crowd from that covered up cave site if you were the one that covered it up and potentially had something to do with the disappearance of Kenny and taking him because he was getting too close to stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
if there's like 6 hikers, maybe 2 of them are actually plants, and they're intentionally leading people away from my cave site, the covered up cave site, which is creepy,
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
You have a lot of people in the comments that show up and they're like, that is clearly a complete natural formation of how rocks form over, and I'm a geologist, and they'll say all the crazy shit, and I'm like, you're an agent is what you are. And yeah, like, no, you'll have people that completely just will blast and spam my comment section. A lot of it I just delete because I don't want it to be there because it's bullshit. Like, and people will like, oh yeah, maybe that is right. Oh yeah, maybe it is look like, when it's not. And so and I'll get those comments like back to back to back. And then it'll just be all positive, good stuff for, 10, 20 comments. And then literally 3 or 4 back to back to back, where it's like, that's fake. This guy's a phony. Yeah. And they'll just say, and so you have like these agents that are literally like 4 or 5 different users, and they'll go and just hit your channel with all these different usernames to make it look like it's multiple people who are all trying to discredit your content. My channel's been hit like that for years.
That's crazy. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned a little bit about like the updates on Kenny, right? But I wanted to also ask about the CCTV footage from the shop, right? The break-in.
Yeah.
If you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I don't think that's him. I'll just flat out say it. It's definitely, it resembles him, his stature and whatever. But I've even talked to a detective down at Metro and I talked to her for like an hour. I was talking about all types of stuff with the case. And she was saying that, for one, no one's ever cashed a life insurance check for Kenny. That's a big thing that I was always wondering about for a while. I'm like, oh yeah, faked his death, life insurance, like easy. Then I found out about the family doing a bunch of little like weird fraud stuff too. I was like, oh yeah, they definitely did this. But no one's done that. And then apparently he took out a title loan in 2017. So they feel like he is definitely alive because there was there would have had to be like an ID or someone to sign for that loan. And apparently it was Kenny. And then,
What?
but then I
That's
brought up the CCTV stuff, and the detective agreed with me. She's like, no, it doesn't look anything like him. The nose is different, and the hairline and all this. And I noticed that too. The nose looks like it's more like has more of a bridge on it, like a kind of like a high bridge. And Kenny's nose doesn't look like that. Also, Jeff Claw and someone else did an analysis on like the forehead. Kenny kind of had a bigger forehead, kind of like my giant freaking forehead, and the guy on the CCTV, it's like a shorter, more compact forehead. But obviously,
okay.
it's pretty like pixelated. You know, it's not a good
Yeah,
video.
you can't really see it. Yeah. You
But
can't it's not clear at
yeah,
all.
but I frame by framed it just to see for
Mhm.
myself what I could pick up. And there's a spot where he gets closer to the door and he's about to, or the window, and he's going to jump out, and you get a nice shot of his profile, and it's like a clear. The nose just doesn't match.
It doesn't match.
Doesn't match at all. And so I don't think that's him. And it's just strange that his brother and sister-in-law own that store. You know what I'm saying?
Mm. Mhm.
That's their store. It's like, oh, that's kind of weird. And it does look like him a little bit, but it also just looks like some crackhead that broke in and tried to steal, smash and grab. Like you got alarms going off. He's probably like, oh shit, like just trying to get in there and
Mhm.
check the register or whatever, and then oh shit, okay, I gotta get out of here. You don't know.
Yeah, that's tripping me out what you said about the loan because I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
Um That's I don't know. And then also there was a call I know that Susan said, which is his sister-in-law, right? Is that her?
yeah,
Susan Beach? That she received a call from Kenny's profile, right? And
yeah,
that kind of was crazy. And that's recent. That's like probably the most recent thing that has happened. But my question was, did she try to call it back? Um, was it only one time? Because you would think like I think I would call it back. I'd be like, who is this? But I guess she didn't, right?
I guess not.
Yeah.
And I haven't formally talked to her since that happened. She popped in on the live stream and dropped all that information, like when I made a little comeback about a month ago, and then sent me the screenshots of all that from her phone. And it has a little red call missed. And then Warlike Rat does a video the very next day. And
Yeah.
apparently, yeah, so I know he was on my live stream because like the very next day, or at least, I mean, I obviously he talked to Susan, and I'm sure she's talking to just everyone on the case because she wants the information to get out there and whatnot.
Mhm.
But I'm going to talk to her soon and kind of get more information on that. But yeah, it was like November. It was like on his birthday or something, which is like November
It's
14th or
crazy.
something, that he called and she missed it. But yeah, like anyone can hack an account. Like it doesn't.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I think that it could be that somebody was just trying to I mean, but was it somebody that's interested in the case or a family member maybe? I don't
She
know.
mentioned someone in the family that had access to the account who had previously posted something with his name, and it had posted like, and she knew it was that person who had posted, is what I remember.
Mm.
So somebody has his account and could have
Yeah,
easily just tried to call Susan.
that's crazy.
But like I said, it's like there was no message left. Like, well, did you call back? I don't know. Susan's like a lot of people have talked crap about her, but she has definitely helped me just kind of keep my, wits about me with going, just being careful, walking through all of
Mhm,
this, and giving me
mhm.
backstory on the family, and has been a very positive thing for me. But you have people that are talking trash about her, and I don't agree with that. I think she's just trying to help, and really, she's the only one here, other than the girlfriend, that knew Kenny. So you kind of have to show the respect there.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Wow,
apparently he's alive after signing that loan. There's
that's
there's a
crazy.
car title loan that was taken
And
out on him.
that and I asked you that question, I think, in your chat, if he was to reappear, would there be any, you know, consequences? Like,
I don't think so. I could
yeah,
I could see him getting interviewed by detectives who were assigned to the missing person case. They're going to naturally, if there's word that he's back, then they're going to just make contact and be like, okay, we're just trying to close this case out. What exactly happened? How did your cell phone just get left right there in your vehicle? And where were you for the last 8 years? It's kind of like, we're just asking questions like, what's going on? You just kind of
yeah,
disappeared. You had a home. So, like, the bank's going to still be probably trying to get a hold of him, to settle up that. I would imagine his home foreclosed and got sent back to the bank that he was trying to sell, on his one of his last videos. Have you
yeah,
watched that
I know.
video where he's like
Yes,
trying to?
I know. I liked how he was so passionate about everything in his home, everything he made himself,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
he was very creative.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The whole selling the house with him in it was that was
Yeah.
a little different, right?
Yeah.
But he seemed just like a super like nice person.
Yeah.
Um and it's just sad, what if he is gone, that's sad. It's unfortunate like the situation, but if he's still out there, it's kind of it would be a trip to find out what happened, like what, you know? Oh.
Yeah. For sure. It's like,
Come we would want to interview him.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but it's this whole case, it's just so intriguing, right? So many questions. Things pop up here and there all the time, which keeps it going, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and not only that, there's so many missing people that haven't been found. Um, and it's crazy to think that it's happening so often, right?
Yeah.
But it's not. And yeah, and especially like somewhere where you would think the least place. I mean, the forest, yeah, it's vast, you can get lost, but I feel like there's so much effort in finding people now, and they have helicopters, they have drones, they have so much technology, and it's just crazy that it's still not improving. Like it's happening, and so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
trips me
And
out.
with the portal thing you were talking about, the Law of One information I follow, and one of these other insiders that came out and was saying there are a lot of natural portals that are just a part of the world and its orbit, and a lot of them occur at these parks, these national parks, for whatever reason. Well, they're really occurring like all over the place, and they're moving too. They're like just swirling like weird portals that are just, they're just moving at certain seasons of the year. And that's why in some of the missing 411 stuff you have two people like just walking next to each other, and then like one's just gone. Like they just look back and the person was completely gone. And it's like,
Mhm.
because you're, one of them's walking into a poof, a portal, and or more of like that portal's walking into them potentially, and they're just out of here. Like, there's a lot of people talking about that, which is trippy to even think about. And it's like, how do you stop that from happening? How do you
Yeah,
prevent that? You
and
can't.
there with that, there's been I don't know if there's been a lot of people, a few people where they say I could see you, but you can't see me. Like you weren't able to see me, but I can see you, especially with kids that go missing and come back, right? They get found, where they would say, I can see my mom, I can see the search and rescue, and I would scream at them, but they couldn't see me. And then this person would be found in a previously searched area. And that kind of
Yeah.
like boggles my mind. I'm like, so he was
Yeah.
like, something was preventing him, right? From, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a trip.
Or they,
But there's also the Sasquatch, right? Like the Bigfoot could have taken some people,
yeah.
but I feel like if that was the case too, people would scream, people would fight, right? You would be able to hear something.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Or totally. But like some of those beings, maybe they have abilities to just knock you out, with maybe not even touching you, just putting you down and knocking you out, taking your energy. Or yeah, they could just come up, they're big strong beings. They could just come up and hit you, or just one blow and then just throw you over their back and take off. Like one of the stories he talks about of like I think it's a 6-year-old kid or something that he saw the dad was there, saw his kid walk into the bushes because they
mhm,
were all playing hide and go seek. You seen that
mhm,
one?
mhm,
And then in that same situation, after interviewing everyone, like a few miles down the way, there's an eyewitness that said they saw like what looked like a big creature, a big man. It had something over its shoulder, and it was, walking through
mhm.
it was making its way through the whatever. So like it could have easily just snapped the kid's neck or something and threw it over its shoulder. And when you're talking about
Mm,
a being that's potentially like 9 feet tall, you know what I'm saying? Like probably as strong
That's
as two or three
that's a
grown men. Yeah, like a normal human like us is no big deal. Just freaking.
that's
I mean,
crazy.
yeah, humans like us
The
can carry other humans. You know?
Yeah, true. So what makes you think they wouldn't be able to like carry you with one,
Mhm.
one hand?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, the other thing too that I heard recently, I don't, it's been around for years, right? The what is it? The sounds, the Sierra sounds, something like that. Have you heard those?
Is that the like
It's like it sounds
humming
like,
trumpet?
yeah, the Bigfoot like talking to each other, like it's
Oh,
right. It's like so creepy. I was listening to it the other day, and it just creeped me out. I was like, there's something out there
it's like
that
knocking on trees or type stuff,
no,
or
it's
what is
like
it?
talking, but it's like the way that they have their own language, like it almost sounds like
Do it.
gibberish. Like,
Do it. Do
dude,
your
I
best
would,
impression.
I would, and like, but I think it's a group of men that would go up there in the high Sierras up here, and they would hide. They were hiding in between these trees that they created like a little fort type thing,
Hmm.
and they put a recorder because this was back way back. They didn't have phones, so it was like a recorder. They put it out there, and you can hear these two creatures kind of talking back and forth, and the guys would make noise from behind the little area,
Hmm.
like kind of mimic, and they would like answer. Like it was so weird.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, you should listen to them. Maybe I'll
I
send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me. I feel like I have watched one of David's things where they were out in a
Yeah.
cabin
Yes.
and they
It's
that
in one of his videos,
I did see and
one of
hear
his
that.
movies.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
like just a weird. It's something you've never heard before. I know what you're
Right.
talking
Yeah.
about.
It's so hard to like understand. Like it's weird. Um,
The I'll go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
This Law of One stuff that I follow, it talks a lot about the Sasquatch, and it says that they don't have there's some kind of reincarnation karmic thing going on where a lot of those beings, this might be getting out there for your audience, but a lot of those beings are incarnating from the planet that used to be the planet to Mars. Mars used to be a moon to a bigger planet, because you see an asteroid belt right there, and on the far edge of our solar system, there was two planets, and those are actually said to be exploded planets, because that's what it would look like, a bunch of rocks that are still in orbit.
Oh,
That's why there's just
yeah.
a bunch of asteroids and stuff there that are, it's a two planets fought each other back so many years ago, thousands of years ago, and blew each other up, but they evacuated a lot of those people, and then some of them didn't get evacuated, is what they're saying, and they got karmically, spiritually all twisted up with it. And long and short, they finally started being able to reincarnate, and then Earth was the next closest place to do that, and these Sasquatch beings were available bodies for them to go into that fit their karmic or whatever. So my point is, they can't speak, these Sasquatch beings. They might be able to do the little, like whatever noise they're doing, but that's a part of their karmic payback, to, because these were like warring races. They were blowing each other up type race,
Yeah.
very like evil type people, as not all of them, but I'm just saying like the majority of them, they were like space warriors, like type shit. And so part of, they had to like, they're paying back some kind of thing karmically, is what the law of one says, and they are incarnated into those Sasquatch beings, and it's like humbling them, because they used to be normal human type people, but now they're in these bodies where they can't speak, and they're having to learn and pay back all this karma. Basically, it's crazy, but it kind of makes sense, because they're
Yeah,
so intelligent too, like these,
they are.
but they can't speak. Like, you'll never be able to go up and talk to one, but they might make crazy noises. So it reminded me of that when you said they're making noises out there. That makes sense, because they don't know how, they can't talk.
They
They're,
can't talk, yeah.
no, kind of like a monkey, like,
Yeah,
you know,
that's what it kind of felt like to me when I was listening to it. So I was like, that's crazy. But it was more like intelligent, like I don't know. It was creepy. But what do you think about the UFO aspect of it? Like, could there be maybe aliens abducting people, or you know,
yeah.
any of that?
So I'm a big believer in this law of one stuff. And from what they say, this whole solar system really is being kind of guarded and watched. So a lot of the UFO craft and all the things going along in the sky and stuff, a lot of that is said to be our stuff, our technology, our thing, people getting abducted by our military and our people, or it's this very negative reptilian race, is what a lot of these people in the space programs are saying. There's like supposedly like 9 different races of them, and there's only one that's really negative. So for the majority, they're good beings, shouldn't be afraid of them. But there is a highly negative one that is also working with these grays, and they say from time to time, just like how these portals are moving around, there are openings in sort of the gate that protects this whole solar system. There's like it's like a barrier, some type, and it's guarded with these higher beings that evolved out of this solar system, and they're literally like our guardians, and they're watching it, because if they weren't, there'd be all types of people and other aliens coming here and abducting people, way more than it's happening right now. So my point is, if that's true, then a lot of it is our own people abducting us and doing all types of weird experiments or whatever they're doing.
Hmm.
And
But do you think they're like current, or is it different, like time, maybe like time travel, or like, do you think it's just like present us? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So I've got into a lot of that 20 and back time travel programs and stuff, and apparently that's a whole thing. And we're on like multiple timelines at once. There's just a stronger one that rides with the collective like consciousness, if you want to say. And so that's the one that kind of powers through. But off this planet, on like the moon and other places, they have all these people from different time periods that are together doing all types of stuff. So but basically, I think it is our current people and just the people in our past, our current government, potentially, that are all involved with these abductions and doing that type of stuff. Like, I think it's, yeah, like our own people and our own programs that just no one talks about. And they're messing with people. They're taking them, they're using them for.
Oh.
Hold on one sec.
Alguien se despertó.
Got stuff going on behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
No, but we couldn't hear it. Don't worry.
oh, okay. I think it's our people that's just present in all these programs that no one's talking about. Because you can see
Mhm.
the interviews like and documentaries from Bob Lazar and people like that
Mhm.
who worked out there. Like they've had these
Yeah.
craft. You got John
For a
Lear.
long time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
John Lear, the son of the guy who invented the Lear jet. He went public in like the 80s sometime and was saying, yeah, we've had all these crafts since like the freaking 50s, and the Germans had them back in the late 30s. But I mean,
That's crazy to think, right? And
yeah,
sometimes I think, what if these like crafts were, because Bob Lazar was talking about how they were excavated, right? They were somewhere in Alaska.
I
I don't
think it
know,
was Antarctica.
Antarctica.
Antarctica. And I'm thinking, well, what if it was a civilization that was here, like maybe Atlantis, that they could have belonged to? I mean, you never know, right? Like,
Yeah, that's apparently the people from that blown up planet that Mars is. So there's Maldek and Tiamat is the two planets. I can't remember which one was that Mars was the moon for, but apparently there was like a giant mothership that crash landed at Antarctica, which before the last pole shift used to be a very tropical area. And it wasn't,
oh,
yeah. So hold on one sec.
that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
There's another good audio. There's another good audio recording from somewhere else where one is like, yes, Goshok, if you can let me know if you find that, because I want to hear that. Yeah, because the one we heard was pretty creepy.
I think the
The one that I heard.
interesting part of like, these whole crafts is the fact that they don't know like what to do with them, right?
Yeah,
Like
because
Bob
they don't
Lazar,
know how to. The thing is that they don't know how to
like what
how
it
their
is,
technology,
yeah,
how to, I mean, because
how to,
when Bob Lazar was talking about it, they were saying, yeah, they can, oh yeah, it's fine, they can use it,
yeah,
they learned how to, I guess, drive
yeah,
it,
how to power it,
how to power it, but they were trying to find out the technology of it.
yeah.
And that's the crazy part. Hey, Mayreed.
Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. We were just talking to the chat. Don't
Oh,
worry about
cool.
it. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's totally cool. I know that sometimes, life we're busy. Hey, Mary. Hey, Goshok, James. Uh, who else came in? I know Donnie was in here.
Oh, I
Donnie, you
know.
crack me up.
Yeah, your comments are so funny.
Blues and G music. Hey, friend. Hi, Arlene. Let's see. Who else came in? Yeah, Donnie.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Don't worry
Whole
about it.
operation going on over here.
Yeah, I know the littles wake up at night sometimes.
12 a.m.
Yeah. But I know it's getting late. So, how can people support you? Can you share a little bit about what you're doing right now? And
Yeah, I mean, I have my YouTube channel, and if you go to my about page, there's 2 links there at the bottom. It's the bonfire I started, where I think I make like, I don't know, $7 for every shirt or hoodie that's sold. And that's kind of the fundraiser thing I'm doing. So it's not just like a, hey, give me money so I can go out there. It's like, buy a shirt, buy a hoodie for yourself
Mhm.
and support me at the same time. And then there's also a PayPal donation link right there. But
Okay, cool.
as far as, just trying to get out on another hike, which I'm willing to do it, even though, obviously we're messing with some dangers surrounding everything. It's fine. I've been out there 4 times already. What's a fifth time,
Yeah.
heading out. And I like to be in the outdoors. I like messing around with all that stuff. And I'm not afraid to go film some more
Yeah.
stuff.
And
And
it's cool. It's so cool too because it's like you go, you take your gear, you record, and then you bring it back. People analyze it, right? Everybody
yeah,
goes crazy over it because it's like this case is just ongoing. Um, and uh, they haven't found anything. They never found Kenny. Um, I know that they found his phone, little things here and there, but people are always going to want to know, wonder what happened. Where's this cave? Will anybody ever find it, right? Or what if somebody does go out there and starts messing with the covered cave, right? Starts,
Mhm.
you
I
never
think
know.
someone already
So,
has. Yeah,
oh,
I think someone
really?
did. Yeah, because
Do you
the
think
last
so?
footage I saw of that site, it looks like they were trying to pick it out and separate those rocks. It looks damaged. Yeah, somebody did,
Really?
and a lot of people said they were going to. I've had many people ask for coordinates over the last couple years. It's why I put them in the recap video, because and people are, not everyone's going to go out there and film. You probably have
True.
10, 20 hikers that just went out there to be like, yeah, let's go check out this spot that they filmed
Yeah,
out there
we'll
that's
be
supposed to be.
let's party out there. I
Mhm.
can
Yeah,
totally see that.
you can see beer cans out there and stuff, all, when other people go and check it out, like
And
J
fire,
Chuck.
like fire,
Yeah, people are out
yeah,
there messing around for sure, and they're allowed to
that's
be. It's a
crazy.
freaking state park. You can go out there. There's no other disappearance stories, but also no one
As
else is
far as
filming it. Yeah.
okay. That's what I was gonna ask. Has anybody else disappeared since up there
Not
that you
that I
know of?
know of. And I feel like that would really get some publicity if it did
Yeah,
happen. Before Kenny's story, maybe not. But now that everyone is really going out there because of Kenny's story, the family would blow up. The friends and people around that story, I feel, you wouldn't be able to silence it. And everyone would be talking about it. Be like, now a second person went missing type stuff.
yeah, definitely. And then that would get even more people to try
Mhm.
to go out there and yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Sean,
I,
you seem like you're very knowledgeable at research. Yeah, Sean gets down with research.
oh, I'm psyched
Yeah,
to read
like
it.
follow his channel, you guys. Like he has a lot of really cool stuff. And
Appreciate it.
I'm sure my people here would like it because they're into that.
Yeah, and I go live stream I've committed to Monday and Thursday starting at 11 p.m. Pacific time. And we usually go
Awesome.
for 3, 4, 5 hours. And
Wow.
I respond to every single comment and address it. And I get a lot of questions, but we talk about everything and anything,
Mhm.
UFOs, spirituality, Sasquatch, anything. Nothing's off limits, and it's a really fun
Yeah.
time. And you'll see on my channel, I've been starting to clip those down into little like 20, 30-minute bits,
Mhm.
that so you can go back and just watch all the important stuff. And the reason I had to do that too is because I feel like I'm censored shadow banned or whatever, because a lot of people don't get notifications when I post stuff, or they just see that they've been unsubscribed from my channel, which is trippy. I've had strangers, friends, and personal family members all report that to me, that they were unsubscribed from my channel and they never would have ever done that. You know, obviously they've always been subscribed. So yeah, they're removing subscribers from me, and that's because I got into all the Q stuff, and you know, I was on the news in 2021 from my TikTok videos, and then I got deleted from TikTok.
That's crazy.
I was fired from my law enforcement job 8 days after that, after being on the news. There's a whole thing. Like there's a whole other side of me. So yeah, if people want to come over,
That's
and
crazy.
I'm sure we have similar followings and crowds at topics that we discuss. Yeah, it's a good time. Come to the live stream.
Yeah.
And that's why I've had to commit, because I'm censored. So now you don't have to guess when I'm posting. I'll be on every Monday and Thursday.
Okay. Yeah, we'll drop the link. They were also it was funny because I was watching your video today, and I was trying to chat, and I was like, wait, this was last night. Because I forgot. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna ask him a question. And then I was like, wait, this was live yesterday. Like I just,
3 a.m.
It's good. Yeah, it makes you like I want to join in this chat. It's cool. Let me see if I can.
We got a lot of regulars that come through and keep it. I rarely have a troll that pops in, and you like, it's a good convo that we keep rolling. Yeah, it's fun. And I talk a lot about spirituality. That's what I almost prefer to talk about, is like ascension and just getting into like that Jesus frequency, because that's what it's really about. Like all this stuff is fun to like play with, but it's like, why are we really here? You know, we got to learn love at some point and really start getting into like
and that's one of the things. I feel like love is the key, to everything.
Totally.
It's kind of interesting because like even for me, as when I had my kids, like I'm like, I tell people, you think you know love, wait until you have your kids. Like that is another level, right?
Yeah.
And so like I feel like there's so many, just it could expand and you can do so much with it. So it's definitely, I think that's what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I added it to the chat, you guys, in the comments. Follow his channel. If you guys have any questions, you guys can always comment those. But yeah, I think we're gonna end it because I know it's getting late. But I appreciate everybody that showed up, and I'm very grateful that you were here, Sean. Hopefully, you'll come back.
Oh, heck yeah!
And I definitely would want to talk to you after you have your hike again. So
totally,
if you get to go out there again.
Yeah, hoping soon. If I don't get the funds raised, I'll probably just eventually go out there. Just maybe get a personal beacon. Oh, my dogs are going crazy.
I know our dog is like kind of like whimpering over here too.
Well, yeah. Hey, thanks again for having me on here. Hey.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Sean.
It is time to go. He's going crazy.
There's two of them. Yeah. They're cute. Do they want to go to the bathroom or something, or they just do that?
Outside. And these guys are coming with me on the next hike too.
That'll be that'll be cool. All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks again. See you later.